Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Small School AD on the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's Small School Athletic Director. But before we do, as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. You should try them too. So take the next 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors because I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We'd like to say thanks to our good friends at Huddle for their support. You know, as a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the events, or to show off your school's athletic hall of fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's unique history and brag about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. We'd like to thank Gipper for their support. You know, your student athletes are on social media, so are a lot of their parents. And if they're not seeing content from you to celebrate their accomplishments and promote your program, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. Their team will have you creating world-class content in seconds, and it's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com to get started. We'd like to say thank you to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day. Things like scheduling, uploading results and scores, rosters, communication. How about student athlete eligibility and clearance? Who doesn't do that every day? Home Campus does all of these things and more, and it does them better and it does them faster. All you have to do to get started is go to homecampus.com. That's it, homecampus.com. We'd like to say thank you to Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and then been disappointed in the results? Those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school, tremendous success. Our coaches loved it, our parents loved it, and it's so easy to use. Go to snapraise.com. You can take a look at their other great platforms, but if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. Go to snapraise.com. We also want to say thank you to Hometown Ticketing. Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We'd also like to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, schedule that live web demo today. We'd like to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio University, but my assistant AD did, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're completing your master's, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. And we'd like to thank our good friends at Athletic Surveys. You know, athletic directors already get feedback, but it's usually from a very small group that just wants to complain. Athletic Surveys will connect you to that group, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% that supports your program. And having that data is incredibly valuable, especially when you're talking with a frustrated parent, maybe your principal, or how about even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Small School Athletic Director on the Educational AD Podcast. We're staying in Florida today, and we're visiting with somebody I like to call a friend of the show, Vicki Merino. Vicki was a guest on the podcast back in, I guess you'd call it season two. Her toolbox tips are in the second edition of the Athletic Director's Toolbox, and it's great to have her back. She is a registered athletic administrator, and she's the director of athletics at the City of Hialeah Educational Academy. And of course, that's in Hialeah, Florida. So, Vicki Merino, welcome back to the podcast.
Sorry, my walkie keeps going off, but thank you. Glad to be back.
Oh no, we were talking before we started recording. Vicky's back to school. They're in week 3, and the walkie-talkie is going off. Any athletic directors listening can relate to that. Well,
oh yeah,
let's go and jump right in. Vicki, share if you can a little bit of your background and also kind of the setting for your school, because I think it's a really cool setup down there in Hialeah. So, what's the Vicki Merino story in 2 minutes?
Well, so I started like we all do, PE teacher. I know that's most of our background, coaching sports. I was actually at a bigger private school down here called University School, which is connected to Nova. So that's where I started under Paul Herforth, and he was played a big role in where I am right now because I looked up to him. And in fact, I know when I get in trouble, I still call him and I'm like, hey, want to bail me out a little bit? So that he's been a huge help. And then when I got my master's through Ohio University, that's when I really started applying to AD positions. And they took a chance on me here for young first year AD here at, we call it COHEA for short. We don't call it City of Hialeah. Our official name is now COHEA. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes here. But yeah, super small charter school, 6 through 12 here in Hialeah. We are a Title I school, and we're situated right between bigger charter schools in Matter Academy and Matter Lakes. So we get like a unique grouping here since we're like literally right in the middle of them.
Yeah, and again, listeners know my career took me down to South
Sorry, I
Florida
got
for
sick
a
over the
number.
weekend.
Oh, go ahead there. We had a little internet glitch. Um, yeah, South Florida, particularly Miami-Dade, a lot of charter schools and private schools. But again, yours started out City of Hialeah Educational Academy, and now it's COHEA. Um, give our listeners an idea of how many students, what your staff is like, and then I'm really curious to hear your suggestions for our small school athletic directors.
Yeah, so like I said, we're 6 through 12. Um, we're about this year. We are just over. I got a new student enrollment notice today, so we're officially at 1,004 students as of this morning. Uh, we offer middle school. I started the middle school programs. We have middle school athletics, we have JV, we have varsity. My staff, I actually do have an assistant this year. They're doing like more of the middle school athletics. So even though I'm still running the middle school league for the charter schools around us, like he'll be doing like I'll just give him the schedule and be like, hey, touch base with the coaches. And you worry about that. So I don't have to worry about it. Cause that just takes away from doing, the day to day, the physical, keeping up with physicals, making sure, especially here in Florida, if you are familiar with open enrollment, kids can go pretty much anywhere they want. Um, so we have a lot of transfers. So trying to keep up with them is interesting. And then we have charter schools that don't offer sports. So then they are allowed to go based on the rules, they're allowed to play at either their public school that they're zoned for or any charter or private school that offers sports. So then you got to keep track of that. And then so all my coaches, I love my basketball coach to death, but he comes in and he's like, hey, I got another transfer. Or hey, can this kid play? Can you check this paperwork? I'm like, oh my God. There's a lot of like you really have to be on top of the details, especially with those rules because you don't know some of these kids, you don't know where they came from. They say like, and parents to get them playing, and it's not always the coach's fault, but they'll say, oh yeah, they're a citizen, or yeah, this, and then you look into their paperwork and you're like, no, this kid is not a citizen. We tried to help out a group of girls last year for basketball, they played at not a charter school, a private school near us, and private school has their own set of rules when it comes to kids that are not citizens or just moved here, or I forgot what it's called when they don't live here but they live with a sponsor here. I forgot what it's called.
Right.
Um,
Uh-huh.
but we can't take those. Uh, but unless there's a certain paperwork, and then you have to file that paperwork with like the government, and that's just a lot. Like that's a full-time job as it is. And I was telling my principal, I was like, he was like all gung-ho for it. I was like, listen, I love helping kids, but that's a full-time job in itself, let alone everything else here. I'm like, so that hat might be the one that falls off. But so we haven't done it yet. It's a work in progress. But yeah, I mean that'll help now having the assistant take over middle school, because as much as I love the middle schoolers, we all know when it comes to paperwork, the high school takes precedent, and then middle school is kind of what we use to get them through to high school. So that'll be a big help. But other than that, my staff is the main coaches, my varsity baseball coach, my soccer coach. I coach too. I coach cross country and softball, swimming and diving. It's just we offer most of the sports, trying to offer more. But yeah, it's pretty much me and then, my new assistant. And our bookkeeper is not athletics specific. She runs the whole school. So I know, like, I'm always like waiting in line for her. And people know as soon as I sit in her office, oh, don't go in there. Marino's in there. She's going to be in there for hours. So that's, it's fun.
You brought up on the whole eligibility thing, the transfers, et cetera. And for listeners in other states, you might have heard me mention this before, but everybody is learning about high school NIL these past couple of years. Well, in Florida, for I'm going to say for at least 4 or 5 years, we've had in high school, we've had the transfer portal. As
Yep.
Vicky mentioned, kids can go to any school. They can go to 3 different schools, fall, winter, and spring, and play sports. It's not because of our state association, it's our state legislature that has passed laws allowing kids to do that. So, again, athletic directors have a lot on their plate just with eligibility and clearance. Vicky, again, you're middle school, high school. Looking at, and again, I'm glad you shared that you've got an assistant AD that kind of helps you with that middle school. What are some things that you have started doing in your time at COHEA at the high school level that have really helped you as a small school AD that you can share with our listeners?
I think it's just being seen, especially in a small school. Like I talked to some of the kids that came from bigger schools. They're like, we never saw our AD, and half of them were like, we're not even sure their name. Um, which I get. Like if you're in a bigger school and you have thousands of kids, that paperwork, like the stack of paperwork I'm staring at on my desk, is big enough. I can't imagine being at a huge school like that and having to deal with all that paperwork. Um, but just being seen so the kids know who you are is one of the biggest things, because that's how we've really increased, especially for females, especially where I'm at. Getting females in sports was a tough one. But when they see like, oh, there's a female athletic director. Oh, she coaches. Oh, she plays. And they see that, and even the boys, because then the boys see that and they become more supportive of the girls. I think, especially small schools where it's probably not just me. I talked to a bunch of small school charter schools. Getting the girls to play has been a huge headache. But when they see that and the boys see it, you get them on your side a little bit, and you're like, hey, and then they start encouraging the girls. Even like the girls are like, oh, I'm gonna be bad. The boys are like, who cares? Just play. Pretty sure that's how I started a softball team. So it's just getting like being seen and having the kids on your side and showing them like, hey, I'm here with you. And it's not just oh, go turn in your physical and your athletic fee. It's, oh, she's at our games. Oh, she's here. Oh, she actually knows our names. She actually cares. That's been a huge thing.
Yeah, I know that you have dozens of experiences that you could share with our listeners, but can you pick out one where just being there, being seen, whether it was a game, the hallways, an event, really helped um, build and nurture those student AD relationships, maybe with a student or maybe even a parent that was not. It's easy to make those connections with, the superstar athletes and that sort of thing that they're out there. But can you share a story where that being present really paid some dividends?
I mean, there's a bunch. But really, I think last year it was one of my senior girls. So she was new her sophomore year, so I think my second year here. And I knew she played softball at her old school because I'm really good friends with the athletic director from that school. So she had texted me when she came over here, a word I cannot use, and she's like, "You took my softball player," and I was like, "LOL." I was like, "I don't even know who this girl is yet." So I was like, "What are you talking about?" She did not play softball for me. She at first she came out for like a practice and was like, I'm too busy. It's junior year." Same old song and dance, you know how we get it sometimes. So I was like, okay, whatever. But she played volleyball and she stuck with volleyball. And I'm always at those games and I'm always working the table and I'm, pretty decently close with most of the volleyball girls. And so that's how we got closer because I was always at her games. The other girls were always talking to me. Um, so then she kind of navigated towards talking to me. And then I was really close with a lot of the baseball boys. Her boyfriend played baseball. So she would see me at their games all the time too, and she would see like the kids as soon as I walked on, like they're giving me high fives, they would come give me hugs. So we got closer through junior year, into the beginning of her senior year, and then I didn't even push her, I didn't even ask her. I was like, listen, if she wants to play, she wants to play. If she doesn't, she doesn't. And so I was in the middle of practice one day and she like kind of like just walks up and she's like, "Hey." And I was like, "What's up?" And she's like, "So I kind of want to play senior year." I was like, "Okay." She's like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "You think I was going to tell you no?" And she's like, "Oh, no, I thought you were still mad at me from last year." I was like, "I'm always kind of mad at you guys just because you're kids and, I just exist." They tell me like, because I have my face, they tell me I look annoyed all the time. I was like, "Have you met any of you?" So but I was like, okay, come out. So she did. She ended up being my captain. She did really well. And we actually redid one of our hallways in the main building to like be the athletic hallway. My basketball coach came up with that idea and it like paid off really well. It looks really nice. If my office was over there, I'd show you what it looks like, but not quite there yet. And her picture is actually up now in the athletic hallway. It's her. I think she hit a home run, the picture that they picked. So, and then she came back. She's at FSU right now, but she's coming back and she's asked me, she's like, "Hey, do you need an assistant coach?" Because I've kind of failed to find an assistant coach because my one assistant coach, she knew nothing about softball. And I was like, "Listen, I don't have time to teach you softball and the girls, like one or the other here." Nothing wrong with her, but I was just like, I don't have the patience for this right now with everything else. So I was like, yeah, if you are here and want to be an assistant, I can use the help. So she ended up playing this for me, and she's actually going to come back and help me this spring with the girls. So I
That
can't
that
get
is
rid of them.
well,
I try.
that I think that's one of the coolest things for an AD or coach is when you have that former player or somebody at your school that does want to come back and give back to that next generation. Cool.
Yeah.
So there's a lot about you in the program too that they want to come back. Um, Vicky, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more about how your program's organized, or just add you to their network, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Honestly, my cell phone. I try. I've been better with it. I mute my email after work hours unless there's a game because then I can't. But most people they know to call me by my cell phone because I know like I tell them I was like, guys, with the baby at home, I try and be a little bit more mindful of okay, work's done now. It's my child time and he's about to stand and start he's about to start walking, so he's already full of chaos. And so yeah. So my cell phone would be my best bet. If you email me, expect is I'm not going to respond right away, to be fair.
Well,
Sorry.
and again, Vicky's information's on the NIAAA membership portal. You can also connect with her. She's on LinkedIn. Vicki Merino, thanks again for sharing with our listeners. All the best with the coming year. And hopefully, we're going to see you down in Austin at the national conference.
Yeah, I got into that program, so I kind of have to go. I already got everything booked. I already told my principal. I was like, he's like, is that right before Christmas break? I'm like, yep. See ya.
Yeah.
So
I would always make sure we had no home games during that week while I was gone at the national conference. If you want to travel, knock yourself out, but we're not going to host anything while I'm not here.
yeah, I unfortunately have to go around the city because we don't have facilities. So I think I have home games, but I already gave the assistant the heads up. I was like, hey, just so you know, everything will be done for you. All you got to do is show up with a little folder. I'm like, but don't worry, everything will be done. So we're good.
That's right. Have that site manager there for you. Well, Vicki, thanks again. We'll see. I'll definitely say we'll see you down in Austin.
Yeah, sounds good.
For our listeners, we appreciate you tuning in. And just a reminder, we do this every week and we upload the Zoom recordings to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Thanks again for listening. Come back next week for another episode of Small School AD and just about every day for best practices on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Before we go, we do want to acknowledge our sponsors one more time. Ohio University's online masters. Go to ohio.edu/info/MAA. Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Check out their touchscreen videos. VitalSignsWallOfFame.com. Huddle. I was a Huddle user as a football coach. As an AD, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com to get started. Athletic surveys by LifeTrack. We use surveys in my school for everything. You should too. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. We want to say thank you to SnapRaise, hands down the best online fundraiser out there. Go to snapraise.com for more information. Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Home Campus, it's a platform you're going to use every single day. Go to homecampus.com. And finally, Gipper. Start creating world-class content for your social media channel. That's gipper.com. Thanks again for listening to this episode of Small School AD. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.